What's up, poker people of YouTube? Welcome back to the Voting Vlogs. We're here at TCH Houston today for a 100K tournament, $400 buy-in. Let's get straight into it. See you guys inside. So, like I said in the intro, we're in this 100K guarantee, $400 buy-in at TCH Houston. Doing something different for once. It's a tournament, not a cash game. We end up buying in at the 100, 200 level, which is the first level. Not at the start of Reg, but we just want to be there early because there's a lot of recreational players. And I would always recommend you to late Reg if you can, like max late Reg, if you can start with 20 to 30 big blinds, because your ICM implication is a lot better, which I won't go too in depth to. But anyways, we're in this 7-handed 30K starting stack. We looked at a 4-3 offsuit in the big blind, the hijack, the cutoff, all limp, the button, small blind, fold, and we're obviously just going to check our option here with his hand. Flop is 7-6-3, 2 spades and a club. We flop bottom pair with the gutter ball. We're just going to go ahead and lead out here with the equity that we have. And so we bet 300, and both players surprisingly call. Turns to ace of spades. It's not the best card for us because I do believe in Texas a lot of people can just be limp calling a lot of weird ace rag hands. So with that in mind, I'm just going to check this, and both players surprisingly check it back. River's the 3 of hearts, so now we have trips, and I'm just going to go big here. Trying to get charged by some non-believing 7-6x hand. They probably have a lot of missed gutter balls a lot of time, but we're just going to try to go for max value here. If they have a better 3, we're going to find out very quickly. If they have a boat, we're going to find out very quickly. But we bet $2,500 into the $1,600 pot, and both players do fold. Blinds up at 100, 200, 200, 9-handed at this point, looking down at pocket 10s on the button. We go ahead and raise it to 800. The small blind now 3 bets to 3.1K. The big blind folds, and we're just going to call here. We're still pretty deep, so we can elect to set mine and also reevaluate depending on what he does on the flop. Flop is very favorable, though. It's 10, 5, 4. Top set for us, 2 hearts and a diamond. Small blind C bets 2.2K. We're going to go ahead and raise it here at 5K. If he has an overpair, he's obviously going to call, and we're going to get paid off a lot of the time. If he has something like ace king, ace queen, he might still float. Anything else might just fold. So we might lose bluff on those, but if he has hearts, he'll also call. So we want to try to get as much money as possible right now while we can. The small blind does, in fact, call. Turns to 7 of diamonds, so super brick. There shouldn't be any straights within his range. So when he checks it to us, we're just going to go for a huge sizing of 22K. We're going to put him in the tank and make him think about all his overpairs if they're good here. And we're going to make him really think about it if he wants to go drawing here with hearts. So the small blind does tank for a very long time before making the fold. We could probably go for a small sizing to set up a river jam where they just can't fold all their overcards, but it's just really weird with the sizing given that the pot's already 16.6K and we have 22K in our effective stack. So looking good so far in this tournament. We look down at ace king offsuit in the hijack this time. The +2 limps, we go ahead and pop it up to 1K. The button, small blind, big blind, and +2 all call. So this is what you're going to see in Texas a lot of the time. Just a lot of action for sure, multi-way. 5 players to the flop now, which comes 7 deuce deuce, 2 diamonds, and a heart. And it checks to us, and usually we shouldn't be betting multi-way like this, but we do have a lot of range advantage. Our ace high is good a lot of the time, and we have a lot of overpairs. So we're just going to go 1.5K. Don't have to go too big into this pot, and only the big blind calls. Turns to 4 of hearts now, and the big blind checks once again. I think we can continue barreling. We also have the king of hearts in our hand, so we block a few king of heart flush draws that we could be representing as well, aside from just having overpairs at this point. So we also don't have to go too big again to fold out a lot of his ace high, king high hands. So we just go 3.5K, and the big blind does in fact fold. About to show you some fish action and why early regging is so important, especially in Texas. We look down at pocket 3s in the low jack. We open for 800, small blind, big blind call. As you can see on the board, we already have a flop of 4 deuce deuce, 2 clubs, and a diamond. Pretty good board for us given that we have pocket 3s. It checks us, and we're going to go 1.5K here. Only the big blind calls. Turns to jack of hearts, and it's not the best card. When he calls, he's going to have a lot of deuce X's in his big blind range, and just probably not folding a lot of time. He has clubs as well too, so we're just probably going to take our 3s to showdown. Big blind checks, and we check it back. River's the ace of spades is obviously a really bad card for us, given that we don't have an ace in our hand, and he's going to be floating flop a lot of time with a lot of ace X's. Big blind checks, I check it, and the big blind says he has a jack. He called with jack nine of diamonds, floating with basically 6 outs, no backdoors aside from diamonds. So yeah, this is just some of that action you're going to get in Texas, people calling way too light when they shouldn't be, and you should be able to print in the long run in a lot of these spots. We lose a pretty big hand previously where we're now 18k effective, and I think I talk about it in the next break, but we're 200, 400, 400 level, 18k effective. Look down at king, queen, offsuit, and the cutoff. The +1 opens for 1.2k. We go ahead and make the call, and the rest of the players fold. Flop is ace, queen, six, two spades, and a club. Under the gun, C bets for 1.2k. We're not going to fold just because there's an ace on the board. We have a second pair. Hard to make a pair and hold them. We're going to make the call. Turns the 5 of diamonds, and now the under the gun checks, so we're just going to go ahead and check it back here. River's the jack of diamonds, and now under the gun bets 3.6k. This is a super weird line where they should never be betting unless they're just really super nutted. A lot of the time someone checks bet is if they're trying to just steal the pot at this point, because a lot of your ace X's should go for value on the turn. There's no reason for you to check it on that turn on something that's as dry as like a 5. So when undergun bets 3.6k, we call pretty quickly, and the undergun has pocket 3s. So yeah, just take this one down and building up our stack once more. Looking down, blinds up, 300, 600, 600, 8-handed at the ladies in the hijack. Under the gun opens for 1.2k. Obviously, we're going to 3-bet here to 4,000. The small blind, tank folds, and he'd later tell us that he had ace-king offsuit after the under the gun folds, and it's just crazy because we should be really just racing here this early on into the tournament, but some of these players are a bit of scared money and they don't want to rebuy, so it is what it is. We'll just take down the dead money that's there and move on. On the button this time with 8-7 of diamonds, the +1 opens for 2,000. We go ahead and make the call in position, and the big blind calls as well. 3 players to flop now, which comes king, king, deuce, 2 diamonds. We flop a flush draw. Big blind checks it, +1 C bets for 3,000. We're going to go ahead and make the call. There's a lot of implied odds, assuming he's betting with a king here. We can get a lot of value on the river as well as the turn. Big blind ends up making the fold. Turn is the queen of diamonds bink, so definitely going to look to go for some value here in this hand. +1 checks. I elect to disguise this even though I was saying I'm going to get value. I just don't want to scare him off if he does have some king X hand. We just saw someone fold ace-king offsuit pre-flop. So trying to play this one slow and see if we can max value on the river. And we check it back. River's the 4 of spades, an absolute blank, and now the +1 checks once again. So we're obviously going to have to go for value here. We can't just obviously check this. And we go for a bet of 5k, looking to get called by worst pocket pairs if they don't have a king, as well as obviously a king. The +1 does, in fact, make the call, and our flush is good. So we're back up to 42k after this hand.
What's up, guys? So quickly on break, first break of the tournament, we're coming back to 400, 800, 800 with about 49k, I believe. Quick hand history that put us down to 17, 18k. We had queen 5 of diamonds on the small blind. Under the gun opens 1k at 200, 400, 400. We call, and the big blind calls as well. Flop was queen 5, 3, I believe 2 spades or rainbow. We check, hoping to check raise the spot. The big blind checks, and then under the gun checks as well. Turns to 8 of hearts, brick. We end up leading out for 2k here. The big blind now raises to 5.5k. Under the gun folds, and we have an easy call here, 2 pair. Nothing gets there except like queen 8 that he might have completed with. River's ace of spades, another brick except bringing in the open-ended wheel draw. We check, he bets 11k, and we obviously call in this spot. He could have missed other missed straights and like 6, 7, and then miss flush draws as well. And he ends up having 4 deuce for the wheel, so we took a hit there, but we were able to climb back, and I believe break's about to be over, so let's get back into this. Coming back 400, 800, 800, let's hope to ship this thing.
So coming back from first break at 45.1k, back to 400, 800, 800 blinds. We're now 9-handed. Looking down at 10-9 of diamonds in the button. The cutoff opens for 2k. We go ahead and make the call in position, and the big blind calls as well. 3 players to flop, which is 10, 8, deuce, 2 spades, and a heart. The big blind checks, cutoff bets 1.5k, C betting. We're going to go ahead and raise it here to 4k. We want to charge spades as well as deny equity from any type of ace X, king X, queen X that he could be C betting. And the big blind surprisingly limp calls here, and the cutoff calls as well. Turns the 6 of diamonds, so now we have a gutter ball to the straight, the 10-eye straight. We're looking for a 7. The big blind checks, the cutoff checks, and in position here after both players called. We're not too happy with our hand strength at this point, so we're just going to go ahead and check this one back with our showdown. River's the king of hearts, and this obviously isn't a great card given that the cutoff could have been floating with a lot of his king X hands, as well as spades that might contain a king. So the big blind checks, cutoff surprisingly checks though. So we're going to go ahead and check this one back with our showdown, and the big blind has jack 10 offsuit. So Unfortunate for that one, we get out pipped by one basically here, but we definitely lose the minimum. Look down at pocket sevens and the cutoff. Under the gun limps, +1 makes it 2.4k. A bit of the larger sizing, but we're going to go ahead and make the call here, looking to set mine. The small blind and under the gun come along as well. Forward players to flop now, which comes ace, king, deuce, rainbow. Definitely not what we're looking for. We're looking for a 7 somewhere. But surprisingly, it does check through. Turns the 3 of hearts, and it checks to the under the gun +1 now, who bets 4k. We go ahead and make the call because it's a weird delayed c-bet where he shouldn't have a lot of ace x's or king x's at all. Looking to probably just try to steal the pot, so probably the wrong call at this point, given that there's still action behind, and we do get punished for this because the small blind now raises to 12.5k. Undergun folds, the +1 folds, and obviously we have an easy fold at this point, so definitely lost 4k for no reason. Could have just folded to the undergun +1 bet. 32k effective stack, blinds up 500, 1k, 1k. Look down at pocket fives and the low jack. The +2 ships 5.1k. We go ahead and reship it to isolate. Only 8s or better should really call. Ace king, ace queen, ace jack, of course, but we should be able to fold out a lot of more marginal hands like ace x, king x type hands. And we end up going against queen 10 of hearts after everyone folds. Flop is 10 high in the window, but there's a 5 behind it, so we basically flop him effectively dead on this run out, and we chip up. Up to our 39k effective stack now. We look down at pocket sixes and the +1. We open for 2.3k, and only the button calls. Heads up to flop, which comes ace, 9, 7, rainbow. This definitely hits our range, given that we open with a lot of ace x's, so we're just going to c-bet here, down betting to 2k. The button does, in fact, call. Turns a 9 of spades, and now we're going to try to polarize our hand. He shouldn't really be calling with anything except like ace, queen, ace, jack, ace 10. And even then, it's going to put him in a really tough spot if he has ace rags. So we go big, and we go 8.5k here. Definitely want to polarize with your more nutted hands like ace, king, ace, queen, and when you don't really have anything like sixes, turning your pair into bluff. And luckily for us, the button does, in fact, fold. So nice one to steal here with pocket sixes on an ace high board. So super quick one, we have king jack offsuit in the small blind. The cutoff jams for 6.9k, which is basically 7 bigs. If we had more chips here than our 40-ish k stack, I think it's okay to call off, assume he's ripping light, and we have overs, but we're just still behind a lot of ace x hands, so it's a pretty straightforward fold from us. And the big blind folds, and the cutoff shows pocket deuces, so right read, just not enough chips to make the call. Looking down at 8-7 of diamonds and the +1, we open for 2.3k. Only the short stack big blind calls with 5.1k behind. Flop is 9-7-5 with 1 diamond, 2 spades. So we flop a pair, gutter ball, as well as backdoor diamonds. So when big blind checks to us, we're just going to go ahead and jam, putting max pressure here, 5.1k, and he ends up folding. So nice little spots here to steal in these tournaments. Blinds going up here, 600, 1200, 1200. We have a 51k stack now. Looking good for us. Ace 10 offsuit in the small blind. Under the gun opens for 2.4k. The hijack goes all in for 3.6k. We're going to go ahead and make the call. Even though this pot is reopened to under the gun, we're just going to hope that he just flats here and we get to see a flop multi-way. The big blind does in fact call as well, and the under the gun does call. Flop is ace 3 deuce rainbow. I go ahead and just donk lead out here for 6k. There's a video from Squish on YouTube. I can't remember his YouTube channel, but he definitely plays on Hustlers. He says when to lead out and donk lead. It's basically when you think it's going to check through, and I don't want it to check through here when I hit top pair. So I go ahead and bet 6k. Yes, there's reverse implied odds to me getting beat by something like ace king, ace queen, ace jack, but we're going to take those chances. Big blind folds, under the gun makes the call. Turns to 7 of hearts, and after getting called in that spot, I definitely want to slow down because the undergun was the initial opener, and he's the only one that flatted us. So we're just going to check with our showdown value, and the undergun checks back. Rivers is 6 of spades here, and I go ahead and check it. Undergun does bet 20.5k, and I think this is definitely a misstep in my part because he's only supposed to have a lot of ace king, ace queens in this spot that go for this type of sizing, and we go ahead and make the call, and mistakenly, he does have ace king offsuit. And then hijack also has ace 3 offsuit for the main, given that he flops aces up. So definitely just a huge misstep on my part. I think the bet on the flop is fine, but I think the call on the river is just completely wrong, and we have to just fold in that spot. He shouldn't be betting that big, just trying to steal a pot, given that the side pot's so much smaller and insignificant, and the main pot's not that big either. So Definitely just made a mistake there and need to fold in that spot.
So we're on break, end of reg right now. So this is the last break, and we're coming back with basically a starting stack, 32K. Blinds are coming back to 1K, 2K, 2K. So that's 16 big blinds. Hands of note, when we had a stack at 500, 1K, 1K, the small blind limped to us sitting on 8.5K effective. We had pocket nines, we put them all in. They called with like queen four and our pocket nines held on like ace, king, 3, 5, 8 board, 2 clubs or something. But anyways, we held on that one, and then we were up to like 55K, 57K, and obviously that ace 10 hand versus ace king with the main pot and the side pot was not good. So that put us down to 10 bigs basically, and then we ripped it super loose rip early position with king 10 offsuit, and then someone woke up with ace 10 offsuit, the chip lead actually. So they held obviously with ace 10 offsuit, and we rebought back in. So hopefully we can spin this stack up. They got like 420 people, something like that, into this prize pool, which went over the guarantee. So we're looking at a prize pool of about 135,000 to 140K. So first place will be like 30K or more. So hopefully we can run it up and ship it. See you guys inside.
So on our second bullet, 30K starting stack, we're down to 29K after paying some blinds, 1K, 2K, 2K levels. We look down at pocket tens on the button. The cutoff opens for 6K. He's a very solid player. Opening to 3X is pretty big, I think. So we elect to just call in this spot, and the big blind calls. The flop is ace, jack, 8, 2 diamonds in the club. The big blind checks. The cutoff bets 5K. This is obviously a fold for us. The big blind calls. I'll just continue with action so you can see what we have. The turn's the ace of clubs. The big blind checks. Cutoff bets 8K, and the big blind calls once again. River's the king of hearts. Big blind checks. Cutoff bets 18K. The big blind calls, and then the cutoff has ace deuce offsuit, and the big blind mucks. So much for him being a solid player opening 3X with ace deuce offsuit, but he gets max value there. And yeah, I guess we should have just ripped the pocket tens in that spot and force out folds to take out the dead money. So we're chipping down from the blinds to 23K, 21K. We get a pretty fortunate hand where we have king 7 offsuit, where we turn trips and we just get some dead money back for us, chipping us back up to 29K. And in this next hand, we have ace jack of clubs and the low jack. We go ahead and raise it to 5K, the button and big blind call. 3 players to flop, which comes queen, 3, 4, 2 clubs and a spade. So we flopped a nut flush draw as well as 1 over to the board. So when the big blind checks us, we go ahead and count our stack. There's no sizing I really like here, and I like to just jam for 24K, over betting the pot. We have good equity as well as fold equity to just apply max pressure, as well as just trying to hit our draws if they do end up calling us, trying to maximize our value. The button folds and the big blind tank folds, telling us he had 9, 7 of clubs. So that's definitely one of those hands we're okay with him calling with, because it's barely a race at all. He has 6 outs, but we're happy to take this one down and chip our stack up. Now blinds up 1.533K, looking down at a 42K stack, and we look down at the ladies under the gun. We go ahead and just open rip it, given that it's 14 big blinds, and it folds to the big blind, who is a chip lead, who ends up waking up with ace king offsuit. So we're just gonna let you guys sweat this run out with us.
Oh, heart. That's good.
So we definitely needed that one, giving us 81K stack now for this next hand. We look down at ace king of diamonds in the small blind. The +2 opens for 8.5K, sitting 35K effective. We go ahead and re-rip it, just putting in the 81K stack, making sure we apply max pressure. Obviously, we're okay getting the money in with ace king of diamonds against anyone else. Big blind folds, +2, it makes the call, and we're up against pocket 10. So here's the run out for you guys. Sweat another one with us. Classic races.
I had a 9 first, 9 check.
So just a super good run of events. We end up having 127.5K stack at the 2K, 4K, 4K level at this point. We look down at 6-5 offsuit in the small blind. The low jack button limp. We go ahead and limp the small blind, and the big blind checks their option. 4 players to flop, which is king 6-4 rainbow. It checks to the button, who bets 6.5K. We go ahead and make the call because we have a lot of implied odds to hit our 2 pair of chips and just get paid by a king X type hand, and the rest of the players fold. Turns now the king of hearts, so it's not the greatest card, but we do beat a lot of hands that he could have been just randomly barreling with now. That could have been like 5-7, 5-3. So we go ahead and check it, and the button surprisingly checks back. River's the queen of clubs, and we go ahead and check it. The button now bets 20k, and I'm not sure what he could really be having here aside from just a king X. He could still be bluffing with those 5-7, 5-3 hands, but if he has a king X, he played it very well as he disguised it on the turn and then went for value on the river. We go ahead and make the call given that we have enough of a healthy stack to continue moving forward, even if we're wrong. And the button does in fact have king 8 of diamonds, so well played by him and just a very somewhat loose call for us, just putting him on some type of draw, but it is what it is and we move on. So after that bad call, we have an 89k stack, which is still good for 22 bigs, which is a very doable and playable stack. We go up and down roller coaster a bit for a while. Not too big of a roller coaster, just up and down between 113k, 100k, 90k, so on and so forth. And then we get into this hand at the 2.555k level, looking at ace queen offsuit on the button. The hijack limps, cutoff makes it 15k, which is 3x. We go ahead and rip it for 90.5k effective, which is 18 big blinds. The hijack folds and the cutoff tank folds an ace X hand. He doesn't tell us until very much later that it was ace 10 offsuit. But yeah, just huge spots this late into the tournament, trying to obviously make it into the money after firing 2 bullets. That you can steal 35k chips basically and putting our stack up to 123k. It's just very important that you take these spots that you can, not just flatting and playing passively, but applying as much pressure as possible. If they wake up with a hand better than yours, like ace king or jacks are better, then so be it, but you're still live against a lot of hands.
All right, so we're on break outside of TCH. We have 136k coming back to 366, so that's about 22, 23 bigs, give or take. Yeah, not much going on. Stealing some pots here and there. Betting range, c-betting, folding when we don't want to, put too much money in the pot. Equity spots, usual, and we are, I think there's 69 people, 55 spots pay, so 14 away from the money, so very close. ICM's going to obviously come into consideration when we get closer, but right now just cruising, not trying to get out of line, trying to just min cash first and then start doubling up from there. Yeah, there's like 100, there are 430 something entries, something like that. I think 140k in the prize pool. So yeah, first place is like 29k, second place 17, 18k, third place 13k, so on and so forth. So yeah, aiming to ship it. Let's do the best we can. Hopefully we run good. See you guys back inside.
So coming back from that break, 136k in our stack, coming back to the 3k, 6k, 6k level. It's 8-handed. We look down at queen jack offsuit and the +1. We go ahead and open for 13k and only the big blind calls. Heads up to flop, which is king, jack, 3 hearts. We do flop middle pair, but it's all hearts and we don't have one in our hand. So when the big blind checks, we're just going to try to take our showdown and just check it back. Turns to 9 of clubs, big blind checks again. Like I said, just going to try to take some showdown value. Don't want to bloat the pot and dilute our equity. If he just does something crazy and raises, we're just going to have to fold. So we check back. River's a 4 spades, goes check, check once again. And we kind of know we have the best hand when the action goes like that. So big blind has 6-3 offsuit. So yeah, defending very light, but we're happy to take this one down nonetheless. 158k stack now on the big blind, ace king offsuit in the big blind. Cutoff opens for 12k, small blind calls. We 3-bet to 45k and both players surprisingly fold. So it's great to pick up all that dead money in spots like this where we're just uncontested with a very simple 3-bet. Not to say we wouldn't mind getting a call or just ripping it here and ripping ace king offsuit and flipping against whatever hand they might have, unless they have kings or aces, but it's just a really good spot to take down a lot of dead money, and that dead money goes a long way, especially in these spots where everyone's short, sitting under 20 big blinds. Looking down at our 170k stack, super healthy, ace queen offsuit under the gun. We open for 13k, the small blind and big blind call. Flop is super favorable for us, so it's queen 10 6 rainbow. We flop top pair, top kicker. The small blind now donks out for 25k. This is just a very surprising, definitely weird. This is the same guy that completed with 6-3 offsuit. Big blind folds. We have an easy call here. Don't need to raise. If we raise and get call, we're only always beat. So just flat. turns a deuce of clubs, and the small blind now checks. So when he checks, it means he probably let out with the queen X or 10X hand, which obviously means we beat all those hands. So we're going to go ahead and put him all in for his 70K effective into his 95K pot. And he ends up tank folding queen jack offsuit. So like I said, there's still some weaker players this late into the tournament not really donk leading properly or sizing properly, and you can definitely take advantage of these spots. If he calls off, obviously he's drawing super thin, but for him to even donk lead with queen jack offsuit and not just check call is something in itself, because if I was bluffing with ace high, like ace king, he just has a lot more reason to be check calling. Whereas if he donk leads and I have something like ace king, I'm more inclined to fold. So just trying to min max a lot of these spots is how you go deep in tournaments. And definitely not going to say I know what I'm doing or I'm the best, but just giving you guys little tips like that for you guys to be able to profit in your spots as well. But anyways, after this hand, we have a 236,000 stack when it goes hand for hand on the bubble. 55th place locks up $590. There's $144,055 in the prize pool. And yeah, I'm going to have to let you guys sweat it out and come with me on the next vlog where we see if we can make a super deep run and shit this whole tournament. If you made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll definitely see you guys in the next one. Peace.